Hello and welcome to Power Lunch East Africa. Coming to you live from Kigali, Rwanda. My name is George Ndirango.
Good afternoon. My name is Boni Tunya here in Nairobi, and indeed this is Power Lunch East Africa. We'll be taking a look at most of the business moves we're seeing this week. But George, there's a lot of conversation right now about the entertainment space, or the creative space, if you like. And we'll be delving a little bit into that, into just understanding the whole concept of content generation, and is there money in there?
Right, Bonnie. Now, we seem to be on the same page on today's content. Despite its rich and diverse culture, Rwanda has been lagging behind in the creative sector, in the creative industry. In terms of regional competitiveness, the government has tried here and there with different initiatives. We are seeing exchanges between Sweden and other countries on having a structure in place in terms of the sector. So we'll have a pack. We spoke to someone from the creative industry, so we'll have that later in the show.
All right then, George, let's just jump right in. Let's take a look at the top stories now. Right, let's jump into our discussion this afternoon. It is Power Lunch. You know, we spend time with most of the opinion leaders to just get a sense of where the industry is going in. Today, we'd like to focus on the entertainment space. Film, broadcast, name it. And this space has been talked about as the next frontier of investment. However, very little is known about where to invest, if any. We've heard about the successes of Nollywood in Nigeria and the nascent film industry in Kenya. Joining me right now to talk about that, as well as how to take this industry forward, is Meredith Beal from the African Media Initiative. Meredith, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Bonnie?
Very well today. I must say you beat me to my fashion. Very impressive clothing there. Let's talk about this whole entertainment space. And everyone recognizes that it is an industry that is growing. It is an industry that has opportunity. But where do we get this information of how to plug into this?
Well, you know, the African Union recently has recognized the importance of the creative economy in driving development in Africa, and the opportunity to leverage this tremendous reservoir of talent that we have on the continent, from the standpoint of television content, film content, music, theater, dance. You know, there's a number of industry sectors that, for example, in the United States, their economy is boosted dramatically by the Time Warners, the Sonys, the Disneys, and you know how the creative content communities can be harnessed in order to help with revenue and development for a country.
Right. Talking about harnessing that, what has been your impression, because you work across the African continent, when it comes to where we are as broadcast and media and film in terms of content, what has been your impression like?
Well, the countries that have been leading, obviously Nigeria, South Africa, even Egypt, Kenya. I mean, there's tremendous opportunities. Some of the places, you know, Nollywood is quite famous, or the Nigerian kind of informal industry has developed rather quickly, and that might provide some sort of template to some degree for some of the other places. One advantage they have is a large population.
Right.
So the ability to identify even a small niche that you could serve content of interest to that niche would be enough to sustain your production, you know, throughout a year or so. So I'm seeing a lot of potential. There's good, compelling stories. We need to improve on the infrastructure of the industry or the markets in various countries in order to be able to take advantage of that.
All right. Meredith, when you talk about the stories, is there such a thing as the African story? Because we've been, we're very harsh critics of ourselves. We're saying we don't like our own content because it's cheap, it's not well done, it's insulting our intelligence. What are your thoughts about this? Is there anything as an African story, and how do we execute this?
Yeah, there's a tremendous number of compelling African stories all over the continent. Our culture is old and has long had a substantial amount of stories around culture, around heritage, around even just the growing landscape, both business-wise and environmentally on the continent. So I've seen very good stories. Now, as you mentioned, some of the challenges in some places, the quality of the production. Audio, for example, I see a lot of things which would be a nice story if the music or the audio were done better. So there's some skill and capacity building we need to do in some arenas. But I think the bigger thing is to be able to protect the ability to make money from your content. Intellectual property enforcement on the continent is woeful, and that's one of the biggest things holding back progress in that arena.
We have to leave it there because of time. Many thanks. Meredith Beal is obviously in Nairobi ahead of a very big conversation. There is a Broadcast and Film and Music Africa conference coming up in October that will be having all these conversations about where do we take this industry, George? Well, interesting though, everyone is talking about the entertainment space. It's too far from Friday, so we'll just hold on until we get to that time. But for now, that's all from the East. We'll see you again at 5.